So what is margin? Margin in life refers to the space between our commitments, responsibilities, and activities and the limits of our physical, mental, and emotional capacity. Anybody besides me ever felt that there wasn't enough space between your work and other things? I have, for sure. And whenever you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, it's due to a lack of margin. And here's what we need to think about creating more margin. Creating more margin in our lives can help us reduce stress, improve our mental and physical health, increase our productivity and creativity, and allow us to focus on the things that matter most. And those things that matter most could be those intangible things like relationships and stuff, but it also could be the things that matter most in your business. Okay? It's in the margin, guys, is the life that you are all aspiring to accomplish. It's by creating margin for yourself. And there's 3 types of margin. Okay? Money margin, time margin, and energy margin. Now we're going to talk about money first because it's the easiest one to comprehend initially. It's easy for us to think about, right? And then we'll get into time, money, and time margin and energy margin. Yeah, so as I mentioned, whenever we feel burnt out, it's because we lack margin in one of these areas. So like reflect, has there ever been a time where you didn't have margin with money and you felt burnt out or stressed? Yes. Ever been a time where you didn't have margin with time and you felt burnt out or stressed? Yes. Ever been a time when you didn't have margin with energy and you felt kind of run down? And the answer is yes to all of those, right?
Or all 3.
For all 3. Or all 3, that's exactly right. So in the vein of talking about this with regards to money, because that's the first place where we can start, and it's what we've gathered as we've gotten together 4 times now to have this conversation about creating margin for ourselves and creating freedom. We have to really do the math, and most people are lazy with the numbers or they've never thought about it. So like we were having with that organic conversation with Ben, I was like, all right, well, what is that number? Like, how much is enough? What's the number that if you had it in residual or from multiple different sources that you would no longer work for money? Is it 10,000 a month? Is it 20,000 a month? Is it 30,000 a month? Now, when we first started gathering, my number was 10. And I wasn't even close. I mean, maybe it was like 3 or 4. And here we are, however many years later that is, maybe 2 years later. And last month I made around $27,000, $28,000 in residual income. Okay. So that number's changing. For me now, it's like probably like 50. Like Jose, it's like, all right, you get 50, bro. Like, you do whatever you want. You know what I mean? But think about it. So how much? And then look at how much I need to invest in order to accomplish that goal. So $10,000 a month is 2.4 million. $20,000 a month is 4.8. $30,000 a month, 7.2. $40,000 a month, 9.6. So how much of that do I already have? How much do I need? Like, what's the difference? And when do I want it by? Okay? And then we can start to get real precise and intentional and purposeful about going after it and creating it for ourselves. So margin with money is the difference between what you need and what you have. What I see now is a lot of people are having problems because what they need and what they have are the same. There's no margin, right? Agents, because they increase lifestyle. Now, if you create a situation where what you need and what you have are the same, if anything changes like market dynamics, now you have negative margin. What's another word for negative margin?
Negative debt.
Debt. And then you have to work your way out of it, okay? So, and there are only a few vehicles where we can invest money margin. Okay? One is in attention, which we talked about. There's multiple different ways that you can monetize attention. Jose's done a really good job monetizing attention with ERC. How much money did you make last year with ERC? $200,000, bro, just with affiliate marketing with ERC. Another way to monetize attention is downlines. Another way to monetize attention is, selling products or services. And one of the ways that I've decided to move in that has created a lot of margin for me is this downline example, which we've talked about before, and you guys have seen this, so we can run through it real quickly. It's very, very quickly how quickly you can start to produce meaningful amounts of residual income. So with 6 people that cap, and those people get 1 person and they cap, that's $20,000 a year in residual income. which I'm aware how much was required in us for order to accomplish that in the physical world. It's a lot. Okay? And this is my rev share from the last time we met. Okay? Just getting started. You notice the numbers. 64, right? Cool. About 3,000. I was super excited about it. You gonna take a picture of it? Yeah, see, that's the last mastermind. This is what it has been today. And now it's even bigger than that. It's 128. And the last paid is 15,000. But like, look, guys. And if we go back here, remember, how much do we need in order to get that? In residual. So in other words, I've increased my net worth by about $2.4 million since the last time we met. That's margin, right? And it can happen very, very fast with the right vehicle and with the right approach. So again, I'm not saying like don't invest in properties. I think that that's fine. I just am aware that it's slow. And it's cool. It's a good way to preserve like wealth. So in other words, like I see rev share as a mechanism. It's going to be bigger than everything else that I'm doing, or even the ADUs or wherever Jose's doing. But the way you hedge against that, so it's like, well, let's say somebody says to you like, well, what happens if YouTube goes out of business? Let's say you make $1 million a year on YouTube and YouTube goes out of business. That's a concern, right? Well, how could you hedge against that concern? What could you do?
Reinvest the income.
Huh?
Diversify.
Okay, and how could you do that?
Reinvest the income syndication.
Yeah, or in other things. Yeah, short-term rental syndications, things of that nature. So that's how I see that. So here's what it is now. But look at the history, guys. I don't know if you can see that. So from when I started on 6/30 of 2022, it was 1,000. Look at it grow as it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Every month. And that's in a short period of time, guys. And look at the transaction volume going up. So it's just if you expand your concept of what you think a team is. I have 128 people on the team. They did 51 transactions. I was not involved in any of the management of that. I was not involved in any of the labor of that. You're laughing.
It's true.
It's true. He's like, holy shit. I was not involved.
Right. And this is arguably in a bad market.
In a bad market. Yeah. So I was not involved in any of the management of those 51 deals, not involved in any of the fucking capital requirements.
A lot of stress in those 51.
A lot of stress in those 51 deals. A lot of almost fall aparts. A lot of like, hey, what do I need to do? Like a lot of all of that. And that produced a revenue stream that's equivalent to $2.4 million a year and 6%. This is compounding plus leverage. Does that make sense? The other vehicles that we're messing with, whether it's index funds, that compounds, but it's not leveraged. Real estate, there's a little bit of leverage, right? But the deal is you need massive amounts of capital in order to really to get meaningful amounts of residual, right? So it's fine. I think it's a good wealth preservation tool. And this thing though is the Ferrari, right? Because I don't know anything else that I could be investing in that would show that amount of increase. Guys, that's 100% increase from 1,000 to 10,000, right?
What's the original adjustment?
Which one?
Like, why does it go initial revenue share adjustment and then final revenue share?
Oh, because they calculate them, and then at the end of the month, based on the time that when they calculated, if there were any other additional deals, yeah, they added in. That's exactly right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this month, because it's not even on the screen, this month was just under 16,000. 16,000, just under $16,000. Yeah, it was like 15,800. Yeah, I don't know, something like that. Who's counting? I don't know. And look at this, compounding plus leverage. So this is from the beginning. It went from 8 to 13 to 19 to 29, 56, 63, 69, 76. Now notice too what's happening here. I'm not actually, this is me.
This is like a numbers analyzer, basically?
Yeah, well, this is Lars's. Yeah, he sent it to me. So I don't want to, look at my butt, but like, this is my efforts, which is on the one line. So notice, like I only brought in like 3, and then I brought in 2, and then I brought in 3, and then I guess like 7, and then only 3. But look at what's happening underneath. Do you see how for one input, you get multiple outputs? And if you look at the cumulative of what it's growing by per month, it has different, it jumps some months, but if you look at it's probably between 15-ish%, right? But what does that mean? Let's do the math on that. If something's growing at 15% per month, what does that mean? What happens in 7 months, 8 months?
Doubles.
I'm sorry?
Doubles.
And what happens in 7 or 8 months after that? It doubles again. So let's play this out for me. So if this is, again, we can't, it's not even keeping up. We just did this and it's already 128, but 128 means 8 months from now will be what? 256. 8 months from then will be what?
512.
512. 8 months from then will be what?
You know, it's at the bottom is the net worth.
Yes, I'm going to get to that. I love that you see that. So, but I want you guys really to understand compounding. Because I thought compounding was I get 6% returns. Which is cool, it does compound, but it takes 10 years to compound. To double, it takes 10 years to double. This is doubling every 8 months. Think about how big that is. Think about the difference in that. And when you look here, you see where it says the equivalent of, oh, that's a good coin. Do I? I fucking know. Do I?
Yeah.
I do, but it doesn't show up on the screen. Yeah. But if you look, let's see, right under
Third line from the bottom.
the third line from the bottom, which it says the equivalent in net worth in thousands.
But basically,
So that's the most updated one. You see it right there. It's 15,874. But that's the equivalent of $2.6 million. Guys, I want you to just, for a second, okay, comprehend this for a second. Really think about this. It took me 16 years of 70 hours a week, 100 plus homes a year for 10 years in a row, 200 deals a year twice to accumulate this. It took me 1 year to accumulate this. Because you're in a vehicle that compounds and is leveraged. Is this making sense? So we keep talking about margin. We're talking about hey, how do we get it? How do we get it as fast as possible? Well, this is a perfect example of that. And if you look at it based on what it's compounding, remember Jose said, hey, 2 questions to ask. Can my business grow without me? This can. And can it exist without me? This can. Does that make sense? That's why it's such a powerful vehicle, guys. And again, my intention of showing this to you is not to make it about me or to brag or boast. I want you to see the power of that vehicle. Okay? Yeah.
I think that all the work that you've done ahead of time, making the name for yourself as far as the coach goes, yourself, Jose, has allowed you to grow at that rate. Because you have so much value to give to the agents that are coming over.
Yeah.
As far as it's, get in your downline, get the scripts, get in the role play, get in the coaching groups, our weekly groups, the talks. I think it's so much value that other people are it's a no-brainer. Let me join under you. So I think that building your name all that time has gotten you to be able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely some truth to that. I think the other thing that's true though is I let go of something that was really big in order to pursue this fully. Does that make sense? So only 28% of people in the company participate in rev share, just like with profit share. Why do you think only such a small percentage participate, even though it's a huge opportunity?
Because of what I said when you asked me, is I'm in this box.
You're in a box. Yeah. This is my system. It's not what I do. I don't do that. And then what I see them do is they start to go in their head, and they start to say to themselves, well, Aaron's different. No. Here's all the reasons why. But I think what's true is everybody here has value. And everybody here is you're some of the best agents in the country. So it's just having a belief that this is possible. I saw this before I started.
Here's a way to relate it. There are people in this company, and one of them was at that Cabo retreat.
Yeah.
There's a guy who's the second largest in the company or something he's got over 2,000 people in his tree.
Yeah.
And he's never sold real estate ever. He was a contractor who made the decision to do this.
To make rev share his
And
thing.
it's one of the videos from the Brent Grove retreat in Cabo
Oh, that's good.
that I think I sent you.
That's really good.
And if you think about also from the perspective of, there's team leaders in Keller Williams that have also never sold real estate. Or if they did, maybe they weren't very successful. And they're recruiting people.
Right. So I think sometimes people can imagine like they need to like have like, you know, and plus for people that
I'm
are,
having to get past that.
I know you are, which is interesting for me because you're a super powerful person and a powerful agent. And you do 80 deals a year and you make a lot of money, $700,000. Like you're it. You're the top 0.1%, but in your mind, you're still thinking like, oh, what do I have to offer? You have a lot to offer. It's just stepping into that, right?
I mean, I'm writing a value stack, right? So
Well,
I
yes.
may not be an Aaron.
It's there for us though, to offer.
We have Aaron, we have Jose Luis, we have Lars, we have so much to offer, right? So, and I think that you've had the results that you've had based on the amount of time that you put into it.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, people can say you're different. Well, what makes you different is the amount of contacts you made, the amount of people, and the effort you're putting into it.
Yeah, we're doing lunch and learns every month.
If any of
Events
us
every
reached
month.
the amount of people that Aaron's reached, we probably have damn good results too.
But even like Brian, he's got
I
7
agree.
people already.
Yeah.
Like I was like, holy, like.
Yeah. And he still actively sells real estate. Like it's
Those
not.
all frontline people, Brian?
No, frontline's like 10.
Then I saw.
It's awesome.
Yeah. And you're already still.
His first year, he's first one brought in an agent in 1 year.
But again, if we remember, the theme of this is this: margin. Does that create margin? Will that cover housing, transportation, food, and insurance? If you had residual that covered housing, transportation, food, and insurance, would you have margin in your life?
That would be badass, period, right? For this just to
That
cover.
would allow you to do whatever.
Right.
That's exactly right. So, but in order for me to really take full advantage of this, I remember how I said when we were having that organic talk that like I really didn't understand compounding. I didn't understand leverage. Like I had a rudimentary understanding of leverage, just like you had a rudimentary understanding of investing. But videos like this, there's a couple people that have helped me to understand leverage better. One is Novello, the Almanac of Novello Ravikant, and two is Alex Hermosi.
It took me 5 years to learn focus. It took me 5 years, maybe 10, depending on
What do you mean about focus?
picking one opportunity and ruthlessly going after that one thing. I think a lot of people, me,
Yeah.
I get so I get excited. I love opportunity. I love seeing the unseen, seeing where things can come together.
I see your mind going there. Like I can tell it from far, like when you walk in the first time here, and we met back in Brand Easy.
Yeah.
But you just, I could tell that you have so many ideas going. That's true. You seem like you're thinking like 100 things at once. And so like you talked about focus.
Yeah.
Does that also mean how you manage your time? Because I know in the beginning part, you give everybody your time. And then after you start growing, then you stop giving people time, and then some people just get insulted or they get mad. And how do you approach that?
So two separate. One is kind of like the networking and people thing, and the other side was like the business focus side. So on the business focus side, it's accepting the fact that there are always many 10 out of 10 opportunities. So the first thing I did was I was picking bad opportunities to go after. You know what I mean? Like, opening a dry cleaning store, or rather, I'll walk up the opportunity ladder. This might be interesting for everyone. So like, opportunity level number one is that you're working at a dry cleaning store, right? Like you're cleaning the clothing, right? That's like lowest level opportunity. You're trading time for dollars. You have zero leverage. One level above that is you're managing at that store. So now you in some way have some leverage, but you're not still owning, but you're operating, right? Level above that is you own the dry cleaning store. Okay, that's cool, but your leverage is you got 5 mile radius of people that you can serve out of the entire world. And the only level of leverage you have there is labor. That's all you have, because you have leverage over other people's time. The level above that is you franchise, or you sell other people your business model of how to do it. Now all of a sudden you've got capital and you got leverage. You've got other people's money and other people's time. So all of a sudden that thing can go from being maybe a $1 million opportunity to a $100 million opportunity. right? And then all of a sudden, if you aggregate franchises, right, now you're at $1 billion. So it's like each of these things we introduce. Let's say you created a software that made the whole thing faster. It's like now you're using code, and then you associate like Kylie Jenner's brand with like Kylie Clean, whatever. And so then you're using media to get even more leverage on the opportunity. And so learning about leverage was the thing that took me a long time to understand in terms of what boat I'm in. So I'll give you a quote from Warren Buffett, but he said, I'll give you a full quote. So he had his closest friend from Columbia Business School, went to school with them. They were really smart, really hardworking, liked each other a lot. When they finished, his best buddy went to do his steel business, manufacturing steel, and then he started Berkshire Hathaway. 34 years later, this guy, steel business is a tough business.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, he made an okay living. He's like, but he didn't do anything really exceptional. And then Warren built Berkshire Hathaway. And he said, and that's when I learned that it wasn't about how hard you row, but what boat you're in. And so there's a lot of really, really hardworking people out there who are really smart. They're just not. The thing that they're missing is ignorance of opportunity. It's ignorance of leverage. And so if you can get into a better leverage opportunity at the same time or same effort or same intelligence, it yields you a 10x, 20x, 1,000x return, which is hard to conceptualize, but it's still true. And so understanding the leverage of the opportunity, and then from a character perspective, understanding that I have to pick a high leverage opportunity and I must stick with it for an unreasonable amount of time. I have to just keep doing it. And the outsized returns, the compounding of the opportunity comes from the depth of the experience, which comes through repetition. And so a lot of people get, whether a mile wide and an inch deep, rather than a mile deep and an inch wide. And most times that kind of depth of experience is what gives you the compounding outsized returns in the longer haul. And so I think if I had known, one, how to pick the right opportunity, and two, said, okay, if I did just this thing for the next 10 years, it would be unreasonable for me not to be a billionaire, then nothing else matters. So even if somebody's like, dude, I've got this new tech thing, it's gonna be huge, I could say, totally understand. But if I do just the thing I'm doing right now, I'll get to $1 billion, which is right now the current goal, right? And so that's it. And I can have 20 other things. So, dude, we gotta do this building together. I'll bet you I can make money on that. But if I do nothing else besides this one thing that I'm focused on, I will get to $1 billion. And so everything that is not that is a distraction from it.
Thank you for watching, and please,
Bro.
So look, everything that is not that is a distraction from that. So if I do one thing and I don't stop, can I make $1 million a year residually? If you look at that, what's the one thing that I can do that if I didn't stop, I'll make $1 million residually? Does that make sense? But he's giving you I didn't understand this. I didn't understand that instead of going a mile wide and an inch deep, I needed to go an inch wide and a mile deep on one thing. And you say no to everything else. It's yeah, I could make money at that. I totally could. It could work. I could make money and it could be a thing. But if I do this one thing for the next 10 years, I'll make $1 million a year residually. So that makes it easier for me to say what? No to a lot of other things. Does that make sense? So that's the first thing that helped me to understand leverage. Look at what we did. That's so funny. So this is me running up the opportunity ladder. Okay? So what's the equivalent of an employee? Yeah, just an agent. Manager, team, owner. I own part of an office. Franchise. You can't do that, but you're Keller Williams, Coldwell Banker, whatever, and then software. So once I got an accurate assessment of reality, I'm sprinting in the direction of freedom. Margin. Does that make sense, Ben?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like what
Go back for a second.
the boss said is you can work hard. You can work 60 hours a week. But if you're working in a restaurant, it's going to do that for you.
It's not. My dad, it's a perfect example. My dad, he's an awesome person. He really is. He's salt of the earth type of guy. He's a furniture repairman. There's no leverage in that. No leverage of labor, no leverage of capital, no leverage of content, no leverage of code. And he just has to he's gonna have to do that forever. Now, the only thing that most people have at their disposal, which is a lower form of leverage, is capital. Right? Which is fine. So the whole thing is work, save, and do what? Invest. What do we talk about how does capital compound usually? 5, 6, 7%? How long does it take to compound? A lifetime.
But they convince you to invest in
things that are gonna get you 5 to 8% return so that other people can use their money, your money smarter.
In a way, 100%.
That's what the stock market is.
Yeah, I get that. I do. So, but do you see how they're using vehicles that are lower leverage vehicles, and that's why it takes so long? So again, it's not that it's bad. Two things can be true at the same time. I do that. Do I own index funds? Yes. Do I own real estate? Yes. Do I do syndications? Yes. But do you see how, with as you go up the opportunity ladder, and you look at this leverage. This is the like advanced knowledge of leverage. I had a mediocre knowledge, like a rudimentary knowledge, an elementary knowledge. This is an advanced knowledge. One is the opportunity ladder. Two is this: labor, capital, content, code. So Jose, how much money did you make last year? Roughly. No, last year, total. No, but gross. 1.8, okay. But what's interesting is at the 1.8 level, what he has working for him, you have labor because you have some agents. You have capital because you own an apartment building and other real estate. Does Jose have content? Yeah. Which helped him to make $200,000 last year. And what does he have that's code? Yes. So is it any wonder that in a year and a half, he'll be completely financially free and independent? Because he's using what? All forms of leverage. All, thank you, Ben. All forms of leverage, not just one or two. Every time you add a form of leverage, it's like you add a zero. Okay? Every time you add leverage, you add a zero. And the level of margin that you have is determined by your understanding of leverage. I'm going to say that again, not because you didn't hear me, but it's been totally true for me. The level of margin that you have is determined by your understanding of leverage. So like when you were saying, Heath, like, you know, the guys at the department and stuff, like what leverage do they have? They don't have any leverage of labor because they have to do the work themselves. But what is the only form of leverage that they have? Capital. Because they get, you know, the job or like whatever. But what's the problem with that? It takes how long?
To get that lump sum of money? 5 years of your life.
A long time, right? Long time. So, but they're only using two forms of leverage. And I feel like if you use those two forms of leverage, you'll be okay, but it's like upper middle class probably. You will not be financially free and independent.
Well, what's interesting is that they're putting in 5 years of their life to get that at the end, and that number is roughly going to be between 400 and 500,000. And you guys can look at it and say, okay, I can make that different ways over
in 12 months.
Years. Yeah. In a short amount of time with different forms of leverage.
That's exactly right. But people, remember when I said like, I know I sound crazy to a lazy mind. When I show them, like if I showed somebody, they would think that what I'm doing is risky. And they think that what they're doing is safe. But what's actually true? It's flipped. What they're doing is risky and what I'm doing is safe. Because I'm adding multiple flows and multiple streams and I'm going up the opportunity ladder. Because I understand it.
Working that day or not, it's still coming in. An officer, God forbid something happens, 2 years in, you're out, no, money's gone. Now what are you gonna do?
It's done.
Yeah, it's done.
Agreed.
Risky.
And now it helps me also too to evaluate opportunities. Because if I have an opportunity, if something presents itself, now I have filters with which I can make that decision if it's worth my time. So each of you has probably like a couple things that you could be doing and you could determine whether or not it's worth your time, correct? Well, now that you have a better understanding of margin, you can make a better decision as to what's worth your time. Right? Because my time is something that's my most valuable asset, and I want to stack it on top of the vehicle that has the biggest multiplying effect and is the most leverage. Okay, and this is the screen that really kind of changed it for me. I love how Gabriela did that. That looks so good, doesn't it? So he's going to, you know, Jay-Z has a saying that says, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. Like I am a business, right? And what he showed me was like, okay, here's the breakdown. And if I looked at real estate activity, and I look at like how much I'm making per hour, it was like $260. No, this is for me. Oh no, who did this for me? Justin. Who's coming? And this really helped push me over the edge, plus conversations with Lars. So what he said to me is like, all right, well, let's look at the real estate income and let's see how much you're making per hour. You have to back out costs, right? You back out your taxes and shit. So you'll notice I'm making about $106 an hour? Which when you really think about it, you're like, God damn, that's not that much. When you really think about it, right? So then we looked at consulting and we said, okay, how much is that? Now notice that consulting is twice what the other one was. So what did it logically make sense for me to do? Yeah, well, move more in that direction. But then look at syndications. But I want you to think about the time that's being reclaimed. So if it's $101 an hour, it's 800 hours of your life. 800 of that 2,600 is being reclaimed. Does that make sense to you guys? Because the syndications, how much time does that cost me? Nothing. So I'm just buying back my time now, okay? Short-term rentals. I bought one, I'm gonna buy another one. But you can see, based on that income, I'm reclaiming even more time, okay? And then we see here with the EXP. And I said, all right, like about 100,000. I think that's a low estimate. And then I'm even buying back more time. So look at what's fucking happening here. So if this was the net, right?
They have their tax rate too.
Yeah.
There's different tax rates.
Right. So if this is the net, if you add this, and this, what does it replace? That. And what happens to the time required in order to do this, and this? It drops dramatically. Like a crazy amount of time drops to the bottom line. Imagine if what I'm measuring is time. Instead of net profit, I'm measuring net time. How much time am I getting back? Does that make sense? And this sheet like changed it. Like this is one of the things that when I was like, I got it. I'm very clear. That's what we're really doing here. Okay? So think about that. Like if you have a sheet of paper, like on your notes, like write that down. Like what is it for you? There's residential resale, and then maybe you do like some syndications. Maybe you have some real estate. Like if you're with EXP, RevShare, figure that out. And how quickly can you get to the number that is your freedom number? I'm noticing you're studying this, Brian. What questions do you have about it?
What is the cost again?
Which one?
The cost. What is this cost?
Oh, that's the cost of doing business, bro. You got fucking staff. You got, yeah. And annually, and then you got to pay taxes on the money. So when people say to me, they're like, "Yeah, I make like 500." I'm like, "No, you don't. You probably make like 100 when it all shakes out." Just like Jose was like 1.8 and it ends up being 600. So what's interesting is really, huh? It's not true. So what's really interesting is between the two things for me, Jose lives in a marketplace where the average commission is much higher, right? So he could do 100 deals and make twice the amount of money as me. But like between the two, we're basically making around the same net, right? The two things for me. But then I'm adding these other things next to it. And where does freedom lie, guys? It lies here. Not here. Do these have time freedom? Do they have location freedom? This one has location freedom. I could be in the Bahamas on a fucking Zoom call with people. So this is a little better, but it still doesn't have time freedom. Do these have time freedom and location freedom? Yeah. Guys, this is what we want. Is everybody clear on that? The goal isn't more units. Like maybe as a mechanism to raise cash, but this is the goal here.
So the opportunity ladder is going that way.
It's going that way.
And what I like is also is you look at the costs. Like you have costs coming out, your costs coming out of your work.
Right.
Consulting. Does the investing in that?
No, very little.
Especially RevShare, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
What's in your costs on Airbnb mortgage?
Yeah, mortgages and his fee to manage it. Yes, and that's a very good observation, Heath. So what does that let you know about which opportunity is the most leveraged? Come on, bro. Do you see that? Look, and here's the nuts part. You ready? Here's the crazy part. How much capital does this require? How much capital does this require? How much capital does this require? Wow, and just initial time. Because I was talking to John Mikesh, who's like, he's largest sponsor. He took a year off, he came back, his organization was bigger. So if you look at what's happening here, It does not. No matter what you do,
You take a year off, your team
it dies.
dies.
100%.
That was one of the questions I had. Like, you know, all these people up on stage, you coach them. Is there any team, any agent that has stepped back from a team and now it just runs itself?
Very few. It's like a unicorn.
Like, who would be an example of that?
Josh Barker is an example of that. Yeah. And there may be like a couple others. Lars has done it and like a couple people. It's really fucking hard because you know what the problem is? Most people who try to create teams are what? Technicians. And because of that, they're addicted to the way that they receive money, which means they're never going to do what? Fully let it go. That's why. Does that make sense? Yeah. So they're just stuck with it. But if you notice, as you're going up the opportunity ladder, look, I'm adding leverage. So this is capital plus, so these are mechanisms to raise cash. That's all these are, just mechanisms to raise cash. This is, I'm getting the leverage of labor, because other people are managing, and the leverage of capital, leverage of labor and the leverage of capital. And this is the leverage of code, but what am I using to grow all of it? Content. So I'm using all four. Does that make sense? Which makes sense as to why there's a hyper speed in what we're doing. Because I'm just adding leverage. I'm sorry? It's not even included on here, which I have. It would be on here. But you know what the deal with the stock portfolio is? You have to sell it in order to fucking... And it produces, like, with index funds, it produces a 2% dividend. So if you have $1 million, it's like fucking 20,000 bucks. Like, what are you gonna do with 20,000 bucks? Jose spends 20,000 bucks on like food.
Don't spend it all.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, bro, don't spend it all in one place, bro. You see what I'm saying? So like, yeah, it would be included in here. It would. I just didn't, and it's funny that you mentioned that because you pointed that out to me. I didn't even include it on here. Because the way I view it is it's like, oh, that's...
Of all of them, it's the one with least leverage.
Correct. The least leverage, and it compounds it.
That's what Justin says.
How long did it
Take that
take?
shit out of there and put it to a more leveraged.
A more leveraged and a more efficient vehicle.
Right.
Yeah, so he was telling me, like, let's say if you had $1 million in the stock market. If you did a life insurance policy, and this is where it's different. People are like, I don't know. But if you do a life insurance policy, you put that, he actually told me $1.5 million, but let's say it's $1.5 million in the stock market. You put $1.5 million in a life insurance policy, that'll give you an $8 million benefit, okay? What they allow you to do is borrow every year against your death benefit, $101,000. That would last till you were like 85 years old. And you pay 0 taxes on that money. So you've just turned that money into a stream of income that's $9,000 a month. Versus what is 1.5 times 2% is like 30 grand divided by 12 is like 3,000, like 2,500 bucks. What the fuck are you gonna do with 2,500 bucks, bro? Rent's fucking $4,000, 5,000 bucks. You know, you see what I'm saying? So it's like, those things aren't bad. They're just like, they're just slow. They're Hondas. So I still do them. It's not like I've got rid of that, but like you see as we're aggressively moving, all of this is in an effort to create margin so I can spend more what? Time with the people, doing the things I want to do with the people I love and care about. And I want to do what I want, when I want, with who I want, where I want. Bro, when he did this for me, I got it immediately. This is one of the things that allowed me to let go of the first thing. Right? So I think if you have a conversation with Justin, it'd be helpful. He can break this down for you and be like, yo.
I think it's almost like all the things align. You had the conversation with all the people.
At the right time. So I was talking to Lars, he's talking to me about die with zero. And he's talking to me about fucking, like, you know, you're gonna die with a lot of money. Like, you don't even need it. And then I had a conversation with Justin and he shows me this. And I was like, fuck. But that was in order to let go of a belief that I still had to keep doing it. Right? That's exactly right, Jose. Now, and the goal, and here's what's gonna be crazy, you ready? This is gonna be bigger than all of this. In like 3 years, it'll be bigger than all of this stuff in terms of the cash that it produces.
At the same time, keeping the hours committed about the same.
Keeping the hours committed about the same. And then what the idea is as this starts to become a cash beast, bro, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a month, then I'm only like, I'm gonna live off like maybe 20 or 25 or whatever. And then all the rest is gonna go where? Back into, and it just becomes a machine, right?
Yep.
That is independent of me. So most people aren't thoughtful about what vehicle they pour their life energy into. And all the jobs you've had in your life, where have you been on the opportunity ladder? That's such a good fucking question. Because we've all had a lot of jobs in our life. I know I have. I've been a fucking telemarketer. I was a busboy. I know you worked at restaurants. I was a fucking lifeguard. Hated that job. I washed cars. I fucking babysat. I, worked at the university. I had all these different jobs, right? But where was I on the opportunity ladder with all of my jobs, including in real estate?
What percentage of people do you think are use all 4?
Very few, and the ones that do are the ones that are fucking crushing it.
But it's few.
Few. So one who does is Grant Cardone. He uses all 4. Labor, capital, content, and code, which is his, what's it called, university, his online software program. He uses all 4. Right? So I think because few people don't understand attention. They don't understand attention as a leverage mechanism. They don't understand it that it's content. You know what I'm saying? They don't get it. But if you think about this, again, in all the jobs you've had in your life, where were you on the opportunity ladder? Even as a cop, where are you on the opportunity ladder? Labor. You are the labor. Which is okay. It's not bad. You don't have to feel bad about it. But that's where you are. Even as an agent, where are you on the opportunity ladder? I'm labor, bro. I am labor. I just get paid a bunch of money for doing what I'm doing compared to most, but I'm still labor. Who do you know that is higher on the opportunity ladder, and what is their life like? Bro, do you remember when you told me you went to Collective Genius and you were like, bro, there's another level? And I'm like, what do you mean? So, okay, and again, I mean this lovingly. I'm not picking on anybody. Because I'm going to say something and you guys are going to be like, I don't mean it that way. You notice at the break, that's due because of a lack of leverage and where I am on the opportunity ladder. What am I doing at the break? Whatever the fuck I want to do. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, who do I know that's higher on the opportunity ladder, and what is their life like? I know people who make a lot of money, $5 million a year, and their life is not. It's like, would you trade the life with them? I don't think I would. Yeah. But I know somebody like Lars who's higher up the opportunity ladder, who uses more forms of leverage. Yes. What his life is like is for his 50th birthday, he takes a month off. What his life is like is every year for his wedding anniversary, he takes his wife on a $30,000 vacation. What his life is like is last month he went to 3 different places, China, Japan, or wherever, and he came back and he still made $85,000 in a month. Think to yourself, who do you really know that's higher up the opportunity ladder? Tall is higher up the opportunity ladder, but he's only using 2 forms, which is somebody else's money because he has a credit line, and labor, other people's labor. He does not use content and he does not use code, but guess what? If he used content, really used it, he could raise money for syndications and he'd fucking explode. He'd have a plane. Do you see?
Like a lot of the flippers, wholesales out there do not even 1% of what he does.
Right. That's exactly right. So that's just an interesting question. Who do I know that's higher up the opportunity ladder, and what is their life like? Do they play golf during the week and not fucking think about it? I thought it was so interesting because I was playing pickleball on Fridays, because now I have like Fridays where I have time, and I don't have anything in my schedule. I'm playing pickleball, and there's a group of guys that are in the back and they're playing with each other and they're like, aggressive or whatever. And I start to talk to one of the guys. He's like, yeah, it's like this group. I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, it's kind of like a mastermind group. I'm like, oh. I'm like, do you guys pay to get in? He's like, yeah, you have to show your tax returns and you have to net $2 million a year to get in the group. And if you're not in the group, they kick you out. But I thought to myself, here they are playing pickleball at fucking 9 o'clock in the morning till 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Not on a Friday, not like, hey bro, I gotta go, I got some shit I gotta get to, let's hurry this shit up. Like, no, just like, just shooting the shit, hanging out. And I thought to myself, yeah, bro, there are people that do that. They own businesses. They own businesses. But they have labor, they have you know what I'm saying? Like, they run real businesses, actual businesses.
Well, it's amazing how widely successful you can be with only a couple of the leverage activities.
Correct.
Right.
And imagine if you
got.
and I think the interesting part is like what it makes me think about is like Neil. So Neil, it took him like fucking 30 years to accumulate a certain amount of residual income. Lars passed him in 2.5 years. It's because he's still in production. 60. So what do you think stops people from moving up the ladder? That's my question.
Not willing to change.
I think the first one is just not knowing
What's
the ladder.
Yes.
opportunity
That's
is.
a very big.
And my hope is that now, even if you thought you knew this, like now you have a deeper understanding.
Know it or know of it, then it makes it more probable that you know of it.
Then you'll move up.
You don't even know it exists. It's kind of like you think that what you're doing.
Is the way. It's like when I'm on calls with people and they're like, yeah, I want to grow my team. I'm like, okay. I know, I'm just like, yeah, okay. I'm like, why? They don't understand the opportunity ladder.
But that also brings up, like, you can know it too, because you've told it to me how many fucking times?
A bunch.
Right? But you've got to be around other people that are fucking doing it too.
And for me to show you, like, look, here's what we're doing. And really, in some of, because like, I feel like me and Jose learn from each other now, where it was like, you know, it was kind of like he was learning from me how to sell real estate in high volume, but now we learn from each other. So he watched me push into like classes and like that sort of stuff. And then I watched him push into the content space. And I was like, and I'm competitive and he's competitive. I'm like, fuck that guy, bro. Like, oh, bro, it was just a real story. I was beating him by 1,000 followers on Instagram. He's like, bro, I'm gonna whoop your ass. I'm like, man, come on, man. And like fucking,
What he told me is like, once you get there,
I won't be there anymore. You know,
I'll be like,
yeah, talking shit.
that shit fired me up.
It did, but I know that about him. So like, I know if I fuck with him, like he gets all fired up. But it did fire him up. And like literally like, I don't know, 5 months later, he's at like fucking 20,000 and I'm at like 4,000. And then he went to 275 on TikTok. And the truth is, I've told him, he doesn't even know how to wield that power. He starts to because like he does the ERC thing, which is smart, where he, you know, gets it's awesome. I mean, you make 200,000 bucks like just fucking sitting around. We'll be sitting at a restaurant. He's like, yeah, somebody just did it. I made 5,000 bucks. I'm like, God damn it, that's awesome. Good for you. So, but he's not using it fully yet because he's built like a lot of influence. And what I told my team, so you know how we did the webinar? We had 180 registrants. I'm like, it's because of Jose, bro. Because he's got a fucking lot of influence. Now, my influence is growing, right? But like together, that's why we can fill a room very fast.
You know, it's funny, I didn't even post that much on social about the event, but it was our email list too. We have an email list of all the agents in the area.
Right. But the social thing, because people know you, causes them to respond to the email. It's like a whole thing. It's a whole thing. But yeah, when you use all of them together, again, I showed you what it was before the last time we met, and you see what it is now. That's where, because you're using all of them together. Or that radical change of not going on an appointment in 6 months. So what do you think stops people from moving up the opportunity ladder? Once they know it. Because now you know.
Proximity.
Proximity? Meaning what? Fear? Okay, but tell me a little bit more about proximity. What do you mean by that?
I mean, like surrounding yourself
With people that are like, let's do this.
Mhm.
Okay, that's cool. And then
I think it's harder for you to just do it on your own,
I agree.
right?
Like jumping into the ocean.
Like jumping in the ocean.
By yourself.
Just like Hosey said, if he was by himself, he wouldn't have done it. That's exactly it.
Yeah. You know what? I also envisioned that when you described it to me, that there was going to be like a bench
Bro, you were really fucking like, you was really stressed out about this shit.
landmark out there, and then we were going to have to swim individually and swim back. So I was like, fuck. I'm like literally just
Bro, what I love about this is he's like, bro, I lost sleep over this shit yesterday. But what I think is, But what I think is fantastic is the following, because he said it to me, he pulled me aside, he's like, bro, I think some people think like I'm never afraid of anything. How many people have looked at Jose and what he does and thought like, wow, like that's fucking amazing? Besides me, how many people have done that? Yeah. And how many people think like you're like, oh yeah, he's just fearless. Anybody besides me ever thought that about him? Yeah. Well, you got a demonstration today that he still has fear about certain things. He's not like, you know, the difference is that he feels the fear and he does it anyway. You just do it.
Shows, yeah.
That didn't scare me.
No.
That didn't scare me.
You might shiver a little
You
bit.
can see the bottom of the fucking sharks. That, like, not seeing underneath that, I'll do it, you know? Like,
But you know what eliminates a fear from experience? I was telling Mark, swim with sharks.
Oh, to swim with sharks?
I'm certified. I went scuba diving. We did two dives.
You did that, didn't you? I think I saw it on social.
Yeah, that was. I've done it a few times, but this time was like dozens of sharks, like down there.
Oh, really?
I got to pet one that was sleeping.
Bro, if Jose was in the water, you might see a little out the back of his pants.
At the beginning, I was freaking out.
Were you?
Then yeah, of course. But then it's like you get so much confidence all around. Like I'm here already, you know. And it got to a point that I was swimming with it next to it, like. So I went over that fear, you know.
For me, it's not like one of those fears that like I'm like, hey, I want to get over this. It's kind of just like, I'm okay if I fucking don't go swimming in the middle of the ocean. Like, I'll be all right.
You don't need that in your life to like.
In my life to like, for me to prove to myself anything. It's just kind of like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Like personally, like it's not one of those things that like it's like same thing with jumping off a plane. It's not like one of those things that if I don't ever jump off a plane in my life, I'm like, fuck, I never jumped off a plane.
Yeah, you're not gonna be sitting around at 80. But this is a good point because like
I'm good with it.
The question is though, is if I don't intentionally and purposely move myself up the opportunity ladder, would I be okay with that? Would I be okay with sitting in my rocking chair and being like, you know, I wonder what would have happened if, and that's. Yeah, and that's part of the reason why I did what I was doing, because I was, again, it's also that competition thing. Like I saw Jose and what he was doing. And I'm like, I don't want to be on his boat and be like, God damn it, like why didn't I do that shit? You know what I mean?
Looking that worked out for me. John Sy had reached out to me back in 2017 when he just got started. He said, hey, this opportunity. I said, no, it's a distraction. I need to sell real estate in high volume. And then when it came back around in 2021 and I saw 85,000, I'm like, two truths. One is truer than the other.
One is truer than the other. Yeah, because, yeah, well, you were both right, but he was more right. Yeah, it just took you a while to see it. But you also had, it's interesting because there's like a unifying, you also had been, like you'd been, whether it's like with me or with Lars, you've been having conversations with people about that type of stuff. And your brain was more open to it.
100%.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And then immediately you were like, oh yeah, it's gonna be this, it's gonna be great, da, da, da. And then what's interesting too, you would think like you think like because he has like influence and when he started like he recruited all these people. Is that what happened? Yeah. What happened?
I ignored it for 6 months.
6 months, bro. He didn't even pay attention to it.
I ignored it, and there was a reason though. Like when I left Remax, the broker told me, look, you're not gonna be able to sell what you would sell at Remax.
Hey, does that sound familiar?
Because you don't have a big brand name behind you. And I said, yes I am, and I'm gonna sell more. And I knew there was gonna be all kinds of eyeballs around me, so the first year I just said, I'm gonna outproduce everybody. And I did. And then after that, I went to a builder, man, and that's when I was like, holy shit, people were making like $2 million a year or a month in rev share. I was like, maybe I should put a little bit of time and energy. And then I said, I'm gonna recruit 40 agents 1 month. Didn't recruit any. And then the next month I said, I'm just gonna recruit 2 people. But think about it, even like as it comes time to growing it, it doesn't take like a lot of people to grow it. It just takes a couple of people that are really high level. And that's all you need sometimes, you know?
Yeah,
So, we imagine, okay, there's a lady that got Brent Gold right above her. The lady met him at a mastermind.
No, and there's a lady who got Lars, bro. I mean, a guy that's John. You know, Lars was his coach. Just like with Jose, like.
Lars was your coach?
No, Lars was his sponsor's coach.
Oh, but John had somewhat of a relationship with
He did.
Lars.
This lady had no
relationship with Brent?
relationship with Brent Gove.
Oh my
she
God.
literally met him at a seminar, said, I'm not sure if you remember me, we met at Mastermind. He didn't remember, so he felt bad and he listened to the pitch of the lady. The lady then, like, has him do the third party verification. Once Brent Gove sees it, boom, clicks. Brent Gove has like 19,000 people. So like something we imagine like, hey, we need like to go out and recruit 100. You might want to set your eyes on a couple of people and almost like target those people specifically.
That one conversation was life-changing for that lady.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Her life is so different.
Yeah.
Because she got one whale, and it was like kind of like the same thing for me. I was like, I'm gonna get 2 people, and it was like one of them was his, and now when I see him going, I'm gonna make 80, 90 grand a month. I was like, fucking shit. Like, because like you unleashed like an animal, you know, like unleashed a fucking like a lion into the forest.
Yeah, that's dope. And I think what's good for people to hear too, whether it's whatever the opportunity is, but like you kind of screwed it up at first, the way you were going about it. Like you met with a lot of people and the way you were presenting it was like, rev share, like what you were interested in, and like you had it all wrong. And it wasn't until like I got involved and I started doing a call where we started to.
But here's the thing, that wouldn't have been possible of me getting here had I not made the commitment first. Because there was an agent in my market who was talking to a team leader, but she failed to commit, and then the team leader joined without her, basically, because she wasn't willing to commit first. Had she committed first, that team leader probably would have gone underneath her, but that lack of failure to commit to it didn't.
And she got mad. You told me she's like,
yeah, but it was her lack of failure to commit, you know, because she wasn't like willing to commit. And when I did it, it was like kind of like there was uncertainty, you know.
Well, you know who would be a rock star at this? Chris, you just spent how many hours? I mean, it's been amazing watching you bring these divers into your experience in the last 3-4 months. How many hours would you say?
Unbelievable hours.
Those hours were taking you from what you used to do, which was this.
Right.
And you put yourself out there, you put the faith into that, and the unbelievable amount of hours. If you shift that.
Yeah, we've had this conversation. It's great though. I'm glad you pointed out because it's a vehicle that like.
I'm not saying it to make you feel bad.
It's part of, for me, it's part of the plan, right? Part of my plan, but yeah.
Yeah, you're in the process of building out what I just showed, where you're gonna have short-term rentals, and then you'll have rev shit, and then you'll focus more on that. And it's the same thing that Jose's doing, where it's like, oh, I need to focus on this. I was just in a position where, from a financial perspective, I could focus on it right away. Instead of like, oh, I need to do this shit in order to be able to focus on it. But it still took a lot of internal courage. I still had to let go of something that for most people they wouldn't let go of. And I lost money when I sold back the shares and lost, you know what I mean? So whatever the, again, you just ask yourself like, what's stopping people from moving up the opportunity ladder? What stops them? Fear, proximity, doubt. But the life we want with the margin that we want is there. We just have to go get it. And what it makes me think about, and then we can eat lunch, and then after lunch we'll talk to Fernando, is, you know, we were talking on the couch, me and Ricky, and I was like, you know, whatever your belief system is, whether it's God, the universe, whatever, it's like, whatever that force is, doesn't give you a table, but what it does is it gives you the vision of the table, and then you have to do the work to cut down the tree and actually build the table. So the intention in looking at this and in looking at the opportunity ladder and showing you these things and the kind of financial transparency is to be like, hey, that's the vision. It's there. It's available. Now it's incumbent upon each of us to go get the margin for the people that we actually love and care about the most, because that they deserve the margin. They deserve me not being like at dinner, hey babe, I gotta go. Like, just give me. She's like, fucking really, bro? You're like, yeah, like, dinner costs money, like, just give me. I really have to take this call. Or being on vacation, she's like, bro, I thought we had this conversation. Or bringing the fucking laptop on vacation. You're like, oh yeah, babe, I'll just wake up early and be like, you see what I'm saying?
Look how hard I work.
Right, look how hard I work for you, which is fucking horseshit. It's not for them, it's for us. Because we have this insatiable desire for certainty, but we can get the margin. We just have to change the way that we think and have the courage to go up the opportunity ladder. So with that, I think lunch is ready. We can go eat some lunch, digest, and then we'll hear from the fucking pure source of energy that goes by the name of Fernando David, who has created massive margin in his life, who he used to be in SWAT and in law enforcement, and in a short period of time, through the short-term rental business, now owns like 48 free and clear. And the reason why he's not here, he was gonna come here in person, is that he took a vacation for a month to Europe. Again, two people who do you know that does that? Yeah, I'm out for a month. Lars and him, but why? Because they did what? They moved up the opportunity ladder. Fernando's using content. He's got 15,000 followers, right? So he's using content. 15. Instagram. But he also is using software, because that's what short-term rental business is software. So let's get our grub on. Let's go. Preparing for a listing appointment is critically important if you want to be effective and efficient.